And now, it's time for another Dice Tower review with Tom Vasel.
If you watch my videos, you know that Summoner Wars is one of my favorite games of all time. Yeah, Summoner Wars! It's great. It's a great game. Today, we are talking about two reinforcement packs. These are reinforcements for the Deep Dwarves, the Benders, the Shadow Elves, and the Sand Goblins. Now, all these folks are armies that came in this master set. If you were one of those people who bought the master set, and you should be to get Summoner Wars, then these expansions are for you. There's 6 armies in there. Here's expansions for 4 of them. It even throws in a few mercenaries. So we're going to take a look at each of these expansions and tell you a little bit about the cards. And if you like the game, you're already going to buy them anyway, but this is kind of to tell you what's good about them. Alright, let's take a look at some of the units. We'll start with the Deep Dwarves. They have some new champions. One of the ones I really like is the Deep Troll here, who can attack walls and actually heal himself. Also, it's neat to have a troll on your team that can walk around and smash things. Or this guy, when people who are near you are destroyed, you actually, instead of them being placed in your opponent's pile, they're placed in your own pile. So kind of a defensive guy. The commons, the Battle Mage, you can basically pay magic to make him ranged, and the crossbowman, if you use an event card, then he has 2 attack rather than 1. And these cards aren't really spectacular. I'm still not sure where I stand on the Deep Dwarves. I don't necessarily like using magic cards to do things. I'd rather use them to summon creatures, but it still keeps the unique flavor of this faction. The Benders are still annoying. Here we have Gwarlark, who can move through other cards and let other people near him move through other cards. But the neat one here is Talu and Kalu. There's two of them. They're basically twins in a sense, and when you summon one of them, you can search your deck and immediately put out the other one. That's great! The disadvantage is that when they take wounds, when one of them takes wounds, the other one takes wounds. These are the twins from the G.I. Joe cartoon, but they're neat. I mean, they initially start out great because if you can get them early, you can summon both of them quickly. The disadvantage is that your opponent is going to nail them as fast as they can because they're killing off 2 people rather than 1. The new commons for the Benders include the Parasite that can drain people when it wounds someone. It removes wounds from its card, and the very awesome Mind Witch. This is a great card because she can mimic the special ability of a unit that's within 3 spaces. This makes her invaluable. I stick her in all my Bender decks because who do you know going up against the play? She's going to be able to steal their ability card, and that's sometimes the opponent has some really neat abilities that you can take with her. All right, moving on to the mercenaries that come with this expansion. We have Rygos, who can discard cards and take a wound. The Demon Hands, they're interesting because they're very powerful and cheap. However, when they're destroyed, your summoner is going to take a wound. So you have to determine if they're worth taking. You know, you're making that dark pact like it says on the card. All right, the Shadow Elves. This is in the other box, the other reinforcement box. I like this guy, even though he does look like he was lifted from Heroescape, but a guy riding a little raptor, and he can move up to 7 spaces. A very good, powerful addition to the Shadow Elves, although an elf riding a dinosaur is a bit odd, I suppose. And then we have other champions in here, but what I want to point out was the Swift Strike, which can attack twice. That's a cheap unit to get out that attacks twice. And the Hunters, when you can basically summon them next to any Shadow Elf already on the board. So if you can get a Shadow Elf across the board and then drop a few Hunters down, you can do some pretty neat things. And so I'm pretty happy with those. The Sand Goblins continue their legacy of having names which are horrific, or ones you wouldn't want to be called. Here's Stink, and he can make you reroll dice, which is a very useful thing to have. And then attack, but what I really like is the Sandworm. Come on, everyone knows that having a Sandworm in a game is simply awesome, and it's powerful. It can move a little faster, but if it does move, it rolls fewer dice. So, but still, moving this around the field, making it a powerful attack. And then we have a few more commons. If a Slayer goes after a creature who has wounds, he's more powerful. Here's a real cheap bomber that may or may not hit, but has a chance to do a lot of damage. And, oh, this guy is a betrayer, a mercenary, but he's a very powerful one. He costs 8 to get out on the board, but he's still one that I often consider putting in my decks. And then probably my favorite of the mercenary cards, it's not actually in the mercenary deck, is the Bounder. The fact that these guys can jump 3 spaces, leaping over other creatures, make them a very effective attack the summoner. You know, you put walls between, people put walls between you and the summoner, it'll block him with other units, but these Bounders can jump over him. So I call them Summoner Assassins, and they're giant frogs, which is also cool too. So a very neat unit. So there you go. You know, you're going to have fun with Summoner Wars without needing the reinforcement packs. For me, I enjoyed both of these. It's kind of a toss-up. If I was only going to get one, I think I'd get the Sand Goblins and Shadow Elves, because I really like the Sandworm and I like the Shadow Elves champions. There's some neat ones in here, but I like both of them. The Benders are very popular around here. It seems like everyone I play likes using the Benders for whatever reason, so it's good to have variety for both of them. And so I enjoy that. I think, if anything, I like this pack better just because I like those Bounder units and the champion, the mercenary cards that come in them. But they're both great expansions to the game.
Thanks so much for watching the Dice Tower videos. Find more great videos and reviews, as well as our top-rated audio podcast at Dicetower.com. You can also find the latest board game news at Dicetowernews.com. I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching The Dice Tower. The Dice Tower is sponsored by Fun Again Games, the world's best game source. Fun Again Games has over 5,000 games available. Check them out at funagain.com.